And so we've got a couple of collaborator issues to start with, and then we'll spend whatever time it takes on eCord. And I think we've got a quorum with Saurav, Mark, Andy, and myself. So David, go ahead.
Sure, I'll be brief. I'll do a couple of updates on where we are with status, and then there's a couple of actions to take. So my understanding on next steps with the OAI proposal is that we're waiting to hear back from Ping Ping, so there's no action on that. We're just sharing a status. Also a status on Expo. As we discussed at the recent call, I kind of re-engaged with them around those points we had suggested that they follow, and I haven't heard back from them. So that basically, I think those two proposals are on hold for now, no action. The two things we do want to take action on is Aerosent sent an updated proposal. They had offered to come to an upcoming meeting. I don't know if further discussion is required or not, so that's either, I guess, we approve it now or invite them to a future meeting. Any thoughts?
Well, yeah. Did you have another one just to put it on the table?
Oh, sure. Just to throw the other one out, Ajima Systems sent a collaborator proposal to Onos earlier this week, and they said they would also like to get involved in Cord, but they would need a little bit of a conversation with. They were requesting to have a conversation with a Cord technical person to help them flesh out a proposal. So if we want to get back in touch with them, if I have somebody to connect them with, I'm happy to set that up.
I didn't get around to looking at what they were, the ballpark of what they're proposing. Do you have any summary so we
Who
can?
would
They're
Ajima?
micro switch manufacturers,
Okay.
so they're like an alternative to Acton.
Okay. So, Saurabh, maybe if you're willing, you'd probably be the most appropriate person to take a look at it and see if you can offer any advice.
Sure.
Okay.
Did they actually?
Okay, so great. I'll connect you on an email thread, Saurav.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Great. Thanks.
So thanks. So back to Ariset. The revised proposal looked good to me in terms of what I heard discussed last week. I'd really like to hear though from Zolt and Ali, and it doesn't look like we're going to get them on this call. So Mark or Saurabh or Andy, do you have any thoughts?
I do not.
Yeah,
I think
thanks.
it's Ali and Zolt's, maybe not decision to make, but at least give input to the rest of the TST of how the revision looks like.
Yeah, so David, I don't know that we need to schedule them for another meeting. I mean, I suspect that it's good enough, but I really would like to get Zolt to weigh in on it. So
And
that's,
he's traveling this week.
I don't know where his availability is.
Okay. I mean, ideally, we wouldn't want to keep him on hold for too much longer. If we don't have to wait an entire week, that might be
Yeah,
good. Do we just?
ideally we could get a yay or nay from him, just from an email, just from
Yeah.
his own read of it, and we could get back to him by the end of the week. Let's hope that we can do that.
Okay. Should I reach out to Zolt over email, or does somebody else want to?
I'll do that.
Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, great. So those are the two actions. Thanks for reaching out to him on that one, and I'll reach out and connect Saurav with Ajima.
Okay, thanks.
Can I bring up Expo again? What's the status there?
I mean, I'm listing it as on hold. I don't think there's any action for us to take. We had discussed this at a couple different previous meetings. You know, Saurav had authored some points that we recommended they follow in terms of next steps. And we were gonna, my understanding was if they did those next steps, then we would, be willing to approve them as a collaborator. But we've sent them that information and haven't heard back. As far as I know, and I mean, maybe they've talked to other people in the community, but they didn't follow up with me.
Okay, I did not know they were, the ball was in their.
I mean, unless they've reached out to other people and had other conversations, I haven't heard from them.
And I have not either.
So I'll mark this as on hold for now, and I'll if it comes back up again, I'll share it with everybody. But I don't think there's anything for us to do.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
And then again, for the OAI, I think Ping, if my understanding of the previous conversation, Ping said she was going to get back to us. I don't think there's anything for us to do on that one either.
Okay, let's thanks, David. Let's transition to eCord. And just to get everybody on the same page, if you look at the planning document, we've kind of got a summary of the high-level bullets there. And I'm just putting it in the chat window if you don't have it in front of you. So again, we'll spend time next week on this roadmap or release planning. But one of the things that we're trying to do is separate platform from the various configurations. And so on the platform side, if you're taking a look at the Cord roadmap slide 2, there is platform support for eCord, which then if you go down to slide 24, you'll find that from a platform support for eCord point of view, there's two things, basically pseudowire and global XOS. But hopefully we've captured, at least at a high level, what the two things that need to be done from a platform point of view to support eCord. But I wanted to drill down a little bit more on what is now slide 3, which is we wanted to have, at least at a high level, for the entire for the TST to see what the eCord specific roadmap looks like. And with that background, let me turn it over to Mark, and maybe you can just give us some highlights here, and we can see what we need to talk about further.
Okay. So up to now, we spent a lot of time. I'm talking about really the first column here, mysterious decision. As all the court projects, we came out of ONS in a kind of messy state. So what we really focused on was making sure we are aligned with the court platform as such, right? And so that meant, making sure we redesign some of our services, have proper XOS data models to represent the services. Yeah, basically those kind of activities. What has been our main activity. Alongside, we also spent some time building out a rack here. It's not fully done yet. We're still waiting for some equipment to arrive, but the kind of design is done. We know what it will look like. We know what we want to do on it. We're just waiting for some hardware to show up. Okay, and then in terms of the dependency, up to now at least that we worked on was I call it global XOS. It's not I think on slide what was that, Larry? 24. You also call it global XOS. That's maybe a little confusing. So the global XOS here is really having a data model on the global level that understands what a cord-to-cord connectivity option represents, right? The other global XOS, and that one is more future work, or at least it's becoming more and more important right now, has to do with kind of distributing some of the state and specifically user credentials from global to local.
So if I could, Mark, I'd like to make sure I understand that. So there are two aspects to this. One of them is a global XOS kind of that from at a portal level, and then the global to local coordination. You call it the global to local credentials. Is that kind of where the Nokia work has been?
No, the global XOS has really been the Nokia work. The global to local coordination in terms of what Andy is working on. That has more to do with user credentials and certain pieces of state that we'll need on a local level.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I know the terminology is maybe not ideal, but
Yeah, so we should work on that so that we can.
okay. So what's the plan? All right, what are we working on now, and what will be we working on for the next couple of months? The idea is there's a theme per release, right? The idea is to work around zero-touch provisioning, and that really means making eCord a little bit smoother, a little bit more integrated, a little bit more automated to deploy and to run, right? And in doing so, we hope to, refine and work on maybe a couple of new services that don't exist yet, in a way that they form, a kind of kernel, kind of core functionality that is maybe primitive in certain perspective, but is fully aligned and fully integrated with the XOS and Cord kind of architectures. So we have here a feature list consisting of 4 high priority items. The H here represents high priority, 1 medium, and one much lower in priority. The very top one is automating deployment. So as I said, I think we're fully aligned with XOS and Cord in terms of service modeling and so on. But automating the deployment is still not there. We know how to deploy an eCord pod, but we're probably the only ones that really know how to do it. So there's a level of integration and automation that needs to be tackled to basically, when you spin up, or when you want to spin up an eCord kind of deployment, you need to have a configuration for the global level, which is different from the local level, because the global one does not have OpenStack and so on. So it's a kind of subset of a Cord pod deployment. On the local level, we have our own service chain that we can spin it up in a manual static way, but not in an automated scripted, run one script and you're good to go kind of fashion. Okay. Any questions on this first one?
No, good, thanks.
It's not like another really new feature, but I think it's very important if we want to release this and not being overloaded. We probably will be anyway, but be overloaded with tons of questions of people asking how do I deploy, how do I run this. I think it makes sense to spend some time on.
But Mark, let me just make one observation, which is Open Cloud, and so therefore Zach would be the expert, I guess, has a similar problem in that it's deploying multiple sites simultaneously plus a global thing.
Mm-hmm. So one thing that you mentioned, you're deploying identical sites simultaneously, I don't think that is something I want to spend a lot of time on. I think the idea here is to make sure we know how to automate deploying a single Cord pod with setting up some configuration, but automating that automating doing it at the same time in multiple sites, I think is an extra step that I don't.
Okay, I get it. Right, you mentioned. I'm sorry. You mentioned that to me now. I get it.
There's always going to be some tuning or configuration that you need to put in before you can start deployment of a local pod, and orchestrating all of that I think is a little too ambitious at least for this release.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there's 3 services that we want to focus on and refine and iterate. So the first one is the EE, the Ethernet Edge, right? Essentially, the good thing or the good news here is that we have an app. It's known as the Carrier Ethernet app that has all this functionality. Now the problem is it has more functionality than needed, so it will need a little bit of refactoring to achieve or to make a nicely contained Ethernet Edge service. But in all, I mean, lots of the code has been written already and has been tested, so I think that's puts us in a kind of good situation.
What's the micro semi?
Let me get there in a minute, okay? So the enterprise gateway is Yeah, Sarah was asking a question. He was skipping ahead this slide, so I asked him to.
I thought you already said uni.
Be patient. No, I did not. So the enterprise gateway is really the way out of the pod, but not using SLA defined connections, but basically allowing enterprise customers to reach the internet, which is very much in line, or I guess even identical to what the service gateway in Cord achieves. We do need a little bit of extra functionality, if you will, in terms of we call it a captive portal, the way to authenticate and authorize users to activate their connections. And this really has to do with our story around zero-touch provisioning. This slide does not really capture, all of the details, but it comes down to needing a virtual enterprise gateway that is identical to the VSG and Cord plus a little bit extra. Okay. Now the VUNI. The UNI is really the point on the for people unaware, it's the point on the enterprise side, on the customer side, where connections originate or terminate, right? And so there's two things that we need to do. One is make sure we have a model, a data model for the UNI in XOS to drive the configuration. The second one is we have a collaborator, MicroSemi, who has been integrated. They have a pluggable interface that can function as a UNI, and it has these nice features in that you can program it to automate service activation. You can program it to do certain OEM features. It starts probing for you, right? So it's a very, it can then work very autonomously, but with proper programmability and configuration, we can drive it to do what we want it to do. So we want to try and get that integrated in our UNI model. Make sense? Yeah. So those are the high priority items. These are the ones that I really would like to hit for this release. Then there's two more that are.
Before you go on the VUNI. So my mental model is this is what in Cord is the the home router, the
gateway, the CPE, the customer, the
right.
on-premise equipment.
Right. So it's the on-premises piece, which is in Cord not modeled or managed, not visible, I should say, at the XOS Cord-wide level. Although, so what you have something different in mind here.
So the reason is this. In terms of, in Cord, all traffic is going to one place, and that's public internet, right? For enterprise traffic, it really can go two ways. One, it stays on the, on the enterprise network connectivity. It stays on the E-line or on a certain E-LAN or something like that, or it goes to public internet. Now, that traffic classification, that's a decision that is split in a way over the Ethernet edge and the CPE, the UNI.
Oh, okay.
And so to do that, you need some kind of model, some kind of state, some kind of configuration to drive the provisioning of the UNI.
Okay, and that XOS could keep that state, but then, or a model could, but then how would I push that state to the UNI?
But UNI is under control by the controller in the central office. Right?
When you said the controller, an ONOS app?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yes. And so there's actually second reason. One is traffic classification is done in two locations in our particular configuration. The other part is that the customer equipment in Cord, at least in my mind, I don't know if we may need to get some validation from other folks, but the home router is essentially, how shall I say this, shared for all the the home users, which are all kind of in the same pool. Whereas in a enterprise setting, that CPE maybe is shared among entities that may not, how shall I say, trust each other, right? So you could have an accounting department and another department that want their traffic to be shared for whatever policy reasons they may have.
So you could imagine there being multiple accounts effectively coming in through the one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You can think of it like that.
Okay.
So multiple. Yeah, I would call them customers, but multiple subscribers in a way that use that shared piece of infrastructure.
Okay.
So you need some level of control over it.
Nice. So
Okay.
I get it. This will be a nice extension of what we've done in our Cord. A nice general thing to do. So
Yeah.
ONOS. There's an ONOS app that controls the UNI and the UNI and the virtual EE. Those are two separate.
Yeah, those are separate apps in my mind. Yes.
But a common ONOS.
Yes. I mean the hardware or the flow space is partitioned on hardware level essentially, right? One app, one box. It makes kind of it makes it easy to develop and to think about or reason about things. So.
Good. Okay. Thanks. That helps.
Okay. So then the lower priority items. One is refactoring of the Carrier Ethernet app. That is in line with what I said about the virtual Ethernet edge, but there's other pieces there in terms of let's call them housekeeping. We rely on certain MEF APIs, and we have some open sourcing activities to do there. There's various other, I'll call them housekeeping activities that ensure that our Carrier Ethernet app is a bit more flexible and generally available for everyone. Last one is options for transport control. So this is something we have not been wanting to focus on too much. So as you know, central offices are connected via a transport network. We demonstrate this, well, at ONS last year we demonstrated with the WDM, so wavelength routed transport network. Nowadays we can do it with a Carrier Ethernet app. There is a notion that, or desire from the people that are doing VPLS, to integrate their app with this kind of control. For the eCore team proper, this is low priority, but this is something that I won't call it community, but people around us, if they're willing to commit the resources, then they will definitely be able to help. But we don't want to take the lead on these kind of things. Okay.
That's all great. Thanks a lot. So on the dependencies, maybe I'm just cutting you off and you were about to say it. I want to make sure that we meaning essentially Andy and Saurav, understand those dependencies. I think these conversations have all taken place, and so
yeah, they have.
Okay.
So in terms of on Cord, I think the pseudowire is well known. These guys are making rapid progress, but tying it all together has not happened, right?
Well, the other problem is that we discovered a bug.
Yes, you mentioned it.
TPA that prevents us from completing the work. I made Broadcom calls it a feature, but I made a feature request to them. But I have no good idea on timelines on when they will deliver on that. There are workarounds that we can do. I'm not happy about them, but if you need it, then we can work around something and still finish the work.
Do you have a best guess in terms of when they can fix it?
Well,
they don't want to commit to anything, I guess.
They don't want to commit to anything. At best, it's probably out till March.
Okay.
Because we failed to make it into the next early access release, which is EA4. EA4 probably comes out in January or February. If it gets into the one beyond that, then probably March end, April, something like that. So,
and in terms of your work, can you complete everything except that one bug, or is part of the task relying on being able to show that
No,
the
most
bug has
of the
been
other
fixed?
things Pierre has already done it. There's always workarounds. So yeah, I think we can.
Can I? I have a question that's not the bug related. Pseudowire is connecting from someplace inside of Cord to someplace outside of Cord effectively. We've talked a lot about the in and I on the outside. On the inside, going into this, my model was that it would include VTN because it would be plugging all the way through to a port on a container, the VEG container, which would be just like had it been a VSG container. The priority, though, is to connect all the way through to the VEE. So, but I'm confused as to what is the counterpart in and I on that side of the pseudowire.
I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I didn't understand the question, Larry.
Well, let me try again. A pseudowire, in my mind, connects two abstract places. And on the out, and in one case it's the in and I. It's on the transport switch. We've talked about physical switch, physical port, perhaps a VLAN. I'm just wondering what the definition is of the other end of the pseudowire. And
the VEE.
the VEE.
Yeah, but there's really two cases, right? There's one is where traffic goes out directly stays on hardware without, well, to connect to your E-line essentially, right?
Yep.
And that means VEE to NNI, VEE to outside immediately. Yep. The alternative is that your traffic needs to go public internet, right? Only in that case, the traffic gets passed through what we call the VEG, the Enterprise Gateway.
Okay, so the Enterprise Gateway is in the path on the internet traffic, just like it is in our Cord.
Just like in our Cord, exactly the same.
All right, so from a pseudowire perspective, though, so there's no pseudowire effectively in the VEG case because vRouter is responsible on the other side of the container. I was just, I'm hearing mumbling now. Hopefully, it's positive nodding. Yes. So,
yeah, that sounds right.
Okay. So my question is on the VEE to in and I case. Can you give me a sense of how you specify the VEE end of the pseudowire?
I'm not exactly following what
he's asking. How do you go from the VEE to the pseudowire?
Yes, thank you.
You go through VTN, right? You go through an OVS. How do you go through that?
Okay, so if the answer is you go through VTN, that's it. I didn't realize that.
You have to, right? VEE is just a container.
No, it's not. It's not. No. VEE is a switch, right? It's on hardware. So we pseudowire from switch port to switch port essentially. That's what pseudowire does, right? I mean.
So why do you call it even VEE?
Because it's an app.
It's an app.
Okay, so we don't have to solve this problem. I just.
Yes. Well, the ingress.
Yeah, so it connects the uni basically to the NNI, going all the way through hardware, using a pseudowire.
Except not the uni because that's on the customer premises.
Larry, can I share a slide?
Oh, absolutely. Let me see. Well, yes, if I can figure out how to do it.
Make me presenter. I think if you right click me.
Where are you?
It's still work in progress, but I think it will help with the discussion here.
Thank you. Yeah. Go ahead. I think you have it.
And you see this?
Mm-hmm.
So at the bottom here, you see our service chain with how it's mapped onto hardware. It's not perfect here, but again, work in progress. Enterprise subscriber connects to, well, his CPE, his customer premise equipment, right, which is controlled using a VCP or VUNI kind of application, right? We hit the central office. The first point we hit is an Ethernet edge, right? We're using a white box switch for that, and this VEE is an application in ONAS that is controlling this white box, right? Now, two options: either you go directly on your E line, right? So you pseudo wire directly across the leaf-spine fabric from VEE to the NNI. Well, in the service speak, this is VNOD local, remember, right? Or your traffic goes through internet, and that means you connect, well, you connect through your VEG, which does functions like potentially NAT or DHCP and so on.
So the picture you're showing here doesn't show going out to the internet, but that would be VEG going out to vRouter.
Yes, no, that's true. Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
right.
So
right.
So in the most general case, though, you might also want to go from VEG to the E line or whatever, and as a consequence,
so why would I want to do that?
Have services as part of your E line.
Yeah.
Agreed, but I mean it complicates things. Right?
It does complicate things, and let me.
A lot of things.
So the pseudo
we talked about this fast path versus slow path, right? At least in my mind, in this iteration, fast path means you're on the E line. Slow path means you're going public.
Okay, so let's just make that simplifying assumption. I'm perfectly fine with that. And in that case, the edge from VEG to VNOD local would not be there. That would be some future pseudo wire. But the pseudo wire going from VEE, and again, this is the service graph, but there's an underlying pseudo wire going. That's the one that you want from Surov for eCord in this next release.
Mm-hmm.
So,
who's making the white box E? That's the micro semi box or what?
No, the micro semi is plugs in here.
Oh, plugs in there.
Yeah.
So who's making the white box E?
So a guy from Nokia is working with Suntech switch. He has one in his lab as well. But we're not 100% sure if it will do everything we want it to do. The metering and the keying. Let's see.
by the way, my mental model, and this is maybe overkill, is that the VEE could also double as an emulated OLT.
Yes. Yeah, I mean the VEE is analogous to an OLT in a way. Even though in this yeah, we conveniently ignored the kind of access technology aspect that may play a role in this as well.
Right. All right.
Does that make it more clear, or I'll share this slide when it's done. I'll work on it through the day and share it on the enterprise mailing list and maybe the general Cord one as well.
And you might edit it so that VEG goes to vRouter for your assume.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, again, I was still working on it.
Yep.
Okay.
So
our Cord, the authentication is in the VOLT. So I think you had mentioned that you were going to do a captive portal in the VEG. Is that to control traffic going to Ethernet, to the internet? I'm trying to understand the authentication part.
So that authentication part is not captured at all on this slide. So I don't think it makes sense to run you through it on this one. We have a drawing on, well, I have a picture of a drawing that I still need to push on the slide. But bear with me and let me share it with you later today if that's okay.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how the captive portal fits
Yeah,
in and stuff.
I wasn't prepared for this meeting.
No, Mark, you're doing great. I think it's at least consistent with what I've heard before, so
Yeah.
that's
So,
helpful.
but just to finish off this point on VTN, so I again conveniently ignored pseudowire and VTN integration for this release, right? I think that is something, you know, I put it down as a dependency on Cord for the release after that, where as in Larry's vision, and I think I kind of subscribe to that, where VTN is the virtual network provisioner in Cord, right? Whether it is port to port or container to container or port to container, it will capture all various options and hide the mechanism away from, you know, the API that just gives you virtual network connectivity inside Cord.
So can we do and maybe just really quickly, the same pass over the global to local, and with since Andy's on the line, just to have maybe if Andy understands everything there, he could maybe say it back to us, or.
I do not claim that I understand everything there. So a couple of weeks ago when I was in Menlo Park, I sat down with the eCord team and explained to them what I had been working on in terms of synchronizing user credentials and other information from the global portal to local Cord clusters. And the feedback I got, or at least that I understood, was that they thought that that kind of functionality would be useful in helping them build and manage eCord. I guess we talked about extending the model that I had built to allow allow the customization of what gets synchronized from the global to the local level. I guess they have, Mark talked about it earlier, the idea of the global data model that they need to build out for eCord, and there might be additional information that they would want to sync to the local level. I'm still a little bit fuzzy probably on exactly what that would entail, but to be honest, I haven't had the time to make any further progress on global XOS and trying to understand in more detail what would be required there. So I'm guessing that probably not a lot of progress is going to be made before the software release, because it seems like we're busy just mopping up bugs right now. But I guess my intention is to, once I return to that, to sit down with Mark and continue to try to flesh out what this what these capabilities would look like.
So I just made an edit. So my understanding is that there are models at the global level. This isn't about the global XOS per se. It's just about what state that is recorded globally gets pushed to each of the per site clusters.
But I think we also said that the flow was from global to local, right? Whereas eCord is local to global, and so local needs credentials for global in order to interact with it.
Yeah.
Part of it.
Yeah. The main focus was really the user credential synchronization across different Cord paths with a kind of master repo on the global level. But like Andy said, at this time, I don't think in eCord team either we fully understand what is needed. We touched on a few subjects like global to local, and then the other way, or bottom-up kind of style of communication. But which pieces of the data model need to be synchronized, we don't know at this time.
Okay, so generally there could be other state as well.
Yes, yes.
So
we had a few like random examples showing that that made it clear that yes, there may be different kinds of pieces, but obviously, you know, for eCord, the biggest challenge is making sure this thing stays scalable, and so the less we need to synchronize, the better.
Yeah. Okay, so on both pseudo-wire and global and local credential pushing, there's some design work still to do.
But this is something that, like Annie said, it needs to be fleshed out in the coming months, or at least weeks, to understand better what's needed, what's required.
Okay. Well, this is hugely helpful just to get at least for me, I'd heard quite a bit of bits and pieces, but it really pulled it together for me. So that's good. That's
and
great.
then for the next release, for me, it's really hard to commit or really understand what we want to do in, what is it, 3, 4, 5 months from now.
Yeah.
We identified a few obvious candidates, but you know, these things will probably change as we go along. So
I think getting some kind of operator input would be key in this work. Right?
Yeah. What are you saying? We need to capture that on the.
Someone who's willing to try it out, and as a result of that, giving their requirements.
Do you have a user?
Right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Not for eCord. Who's our best options right now?
So one is China Unicom. I already mentioned that. They claim they are doing eCord, but
okay.
yeah, I mean, yeah.
Who else? Anyone else?
I had very serious interest from Telecom Italia, but they are not an official partner.
Doesn't matter.
Well, it does to our boss.
Well,
well, I had a discussion with him. I was also of your opinion. And I presume he said it for more reasons than we know at this time. Third one is NTT. Maybe NTT is serious, but I find it very hard to narrow down on the scope of the project, right? They usually show up with a very broad vision of what eCord should be, but it's impossible to get them to commit something tangible.
I would be hopeful, and this may just be optimism, that you've got a really nice demonstration that you could pull together here that hopefully will get eCord more traction. Anything else, Mark?
Yeah, one final point. I put this kind of hidden away here. It's QA. So
get in line.
Yeah, it's basically non-existent for eCord.
Non-existent for the platform.
Yeah, so
it's starting in Dangerous Edition, but I think it's going to be focusing on just core XOS.
I'm sorry, Annette, I didn't get that. What was your point?
So Jitra is starting work on QA, but I think it's going to be focused on kind of the core XOS piece for now in Dangerous Edition.
So, but I guess, it's more a question. What should we do? Should we ignore it for now?
I think one of the things we had talked about was, does it make sense to try to build a brigade around QA minimally, right? So David is on. I guess what I'm trying to understand is, for Dangerous Edition, is all the work covered? I think you had mentioned previously for VEE, right? Is there potential with Charles, school helping? Or since you're leveraging the carrier Ethernet app, if that isn't required. So it's not clear to me, is all the work covered? And is there help needed? And David is online, so it may be good to get a handle on that. Because QA, for sure, we don't have coverage.
Well, I think you would need to get QA on Cord generally before you could make inroads on QA for eCord. Until we're running some data plane tests, QA. It doesn't.
Yeah, this is such a highlight, and yeah. So yeah, for the plan right now, we don't have anything included as part of Cord. So in general, Cord testing as such, and then right now we are focusing on our Cord.
But the question really is there anything we can do at this time to prepare for eventual automation and testing, or do we just like say, let's ignore it for now, which is fine by me. I'm just.
No, I think it's good to include all the Cord platforms because that's the final goal. But my other question is we need like resources to do that.
Yeah.
And I would like to understand if there is any partners who are working for Cord, and if there are any like test community which is working on Cord, so we can collaborate and then.
There are partners, but no one is doing any testing.
Nothing.
No, nothing.
Oh.
But the thing is, I also don't understand what's going on in the platform or in our Cord for that matter. So maybe we should sync up at some time to understand that better. All I want to make sure of is that we don't get into a situation where we're 1 year down the line. Suddenly we need to start testing things. We don't know where to start, where to begin. I mean, yeah, trying to plan for the mess or the chaos that will
I agree.
come anyway.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, Mark, I think just generally that the stronger platform QA is, that's a critical prerequisite for any eCord. So whatever graph you would configure in, it ought to be the case that you can then, certainly there are going to be some additional unit tests and so on, but a redefinition of what is end-to-end. But
okay.
I can't think of what you would do special in prep for that.
Okay.
Is there anything else? Questions for Mark or any other general topics for the steering team?
I'm done.
I think, Larry, one of the things we had talked about was highlighting the work that would be done as part of XOS around refactoring, so the impact to projects that may be dependent on that.
Oh yeah, thank you for raising that point. So Mark, the first item on the Cord platform roadmap is refactoring XOS, and actually refactoring the build process is kind of interrelated with that a little bit. As a consequence, there will be some disruption there. We're giving ourselves permission to disruptively change the data model if that's the right thing to do, for example, or disruptively change the way that you onboarded a service. So it's not going to be any fun for eCord to be trying to track master during dangerous addition. My advice would be, and this is something we need to discuss, is that you would stay with mysterious decision for the work that you've proposed. And perhaps we schedule towards the very end of dangerous addition a transition from mysterious decision to master. It's not like things are going to change arbitrarily. There will be syntactic changes. So I'm hoping that you could even argue it could be part of an integration effort that happened towards the end of dangerous addition. The eCord mysterious decision branch merges with the platform dangerous addition. And maybe we have to set aside some work on the platform side to help make that happen. Alternatively, the eCord release that comes out, and this is a general issue of how the eCords and MCords of the world track the platform, is whatever the date is, May 1st, dangerous edition of the platform comes out, and an upgraded release of mysterious decision comes out with the eCord services in it. And I hope that made a little bit of sense. The basic problem is that master is potentially dangerous edition. During the dangerous edition release period, development period, master may be even more unstable than it has been. Or alternatively, there's parallel activity that's not yet been checked back into master. Master hasn't changed so much, but Scott Baker has a branch that is quite a bit different. And the day he merges that back in, it's going to be disruptive to the eCord work.
So once the mysterious decision was released and dangerous addition development has started, will anyone be looking at mysterious decision maintenance? I mean, what happened in creamy vegetable release was that, okay, we used that as a stable release, but no one really worked on it. Even if there was issue found on the creamy vegetable, no one messed with it, the core people. So if that's going to be the same situation, trying to build something on mysterious decision might not be possible.
Yeah, last month, or 2 months ago, my first experience deploying 1.0 failed miserably because it simply didn't work anymore deploying.
Well, so that's a very valid point. I think there was just a general sense that creamy vegetable was raw enough that it was better to put the effort into mysterious decision. I mean, I don't know that we consciously decided that and voted on it or anything, but that's the way it turned out. I think because of the intent for dangerous addition to be somewhat disruptive, and yet mysterious decision being okay, I would argue that we have to keep mysterious decision, backport bug fixes to mysterious decision during this next release period for exactly that reason.
Okay.
But it's something that, and I think this will be a pretty big topic next week, just what the right strategy is. But I think that we have to do that. And then that raises the question, at release time, do we try to hoist all the eCord work that happened on mysterious decision up to dangerous addition, or do we release an update to mysterious decision that includes the eCord services?
I think we can only make that call, a couple of weeks before the actual release.
Exactly, but that.
How much work it is? But my take is this is wishful thinking, huh? But we'll see.
Yeah. So that is the key question about, and I think it has to be maybe I'll even start a discussion about it on the TST mailing list so that we aren't starting raw with that next week. I think it's feasible. I think it's possible that during an integration period at the end of the development cycle that we can.
Yeah, but Larry, it's possible but it implies this roadmap for eCord needs to be redone, and there needs to be an extra item that says realign with Cord platform dangerous edition release. Yeah,
you're right. The only slop that we have is if you go to the schedule. If you view this as a merge of the eCord work on mysterious decision merging with the dangerous addition platform, we're leaving ourselves. Well, we don't leave ourselves a lot of time, but there is some end of sprint time that we do. So you could view it that way, and it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen.
But the merge requires input from both eCord team and Cord platform team, people that have done the transition.
That's right. It would require that, so but it is
quite a lot of resources just to get it done.
It is, however, during a period that's after feature free. So it's not like dangerous edition keeps changing out from underneath you until the day before the release. At least and maybe we need to spend more time there.
Which slide is that timeline that you were talking about?
That's on 12.
There's only a couple weeks though between feature freeze and starting the release. And keep in mind we've got ONS in that mess.
Yeah, did you put ONS on this map? I don't think.
Well, wait a minute. This isn't right. I'm sorry, it is. Well, so this is something that we can discuss, that because of what's going on, that we might choose that Sprint 6 is 4 weeks long, or some different number, and that we move the release out into sometime later in May. But TBD. And I get your point. You haven't allocated time for that, so that's completely fair.
I guess March, April will be decision time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I have to drop off.
Yeah. So the hour's up, and why don't we? Is there anything else quickly?
I think just FYI to folks that next week is release planning, right? So it's a 2-hour session instead of 1 hour.
Yep. Thank you. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.